This is the big one. We finally have some Dragon Ball Project Multi news, courtesy of a leak coming from SteamDB. We'll talk about that as well as where we could see it revealed, which is pretty interesting how these things are lining up. Also, we'll be talking about the Dragon Ball Legends backlash concerning the use of AI and some brand new figures, and Toyotaro actually did an interview recently. We'll be breaking all of that down, but first, let's start with the big story, the Dragon Ball Project Multi news. So apparently it was temporarily renamed on Steam to Gekishin Squadra. Again, I'm most definitely mispronouncing that, but this was interesting because this Gekishin Squadra name was trademarked by Bandai Namco on February 14th. This information, of course, coming from Kanton Mods on Twitter, who himself is crediting WY_0_0 on Reddit for the info about the trademark information going back to February 14th. Now, some people are upset with the name Gekishin Squadra. They're saying that it does not sound as cool as Project Multi, but keep in mind, that's the Japanese, and apparently it translates into English as Grand Squadron. It's possible that once they bring this game to other places, that they'll just translate it from Gekishin Squadra to Grand Squadron, but I still don't think Gekishin Squadra is a bad name. Now, concerning how this whole thing took place, it looks like on SteamDB, it was originally updated from the Dragon Ball Project Multi name to Dragon Ball Gekishin Squadra, and then they immediately changed it back to Dragon Ball Project Multi, which is interesting. So they're basically leaking the name themselves before it's even revealed. So I don't know if somebody messed up somewhere and they accidentally renamed it and they decided to name it back. Who knows how this exactly worked out, but it looks like we could be getting it revealed as early as June 6th, because that's whenever the Summer Game Fest event starts, and many people are speculating that Dragon Ball Project Multi, aka Gekishin Squadra, could be revealed there because Bandai Namco are there as an official partner for round 1. Now, it doesn't say what Bandai Namco will be there to promote. It could just be other games that they have in development because, of course, being Bandai Namco, they have a lot of games out. Given this update on SteamDB concerning Project Multi, I do think it's more likely than not that we're going to see this game revealed very soon. Keep in mind that the release date is still 2025 and they haven't announced a delay. They'll probably announce a delay once they talk about it soon, but I don't think it'll be delayed from 2025 just because these things are starting to line up, and I don't think it was even in that bad of a state back whenever they had the open beta for it to be delayed in the first place. Alright, now let's talk about the Dragon Ball Legends controversy that has fans in an uproar. Apparently they used AI in one of their trailers to celebrate the 7th anniversary. Now, if you look at these images right here, it isn't too obvious. In the first picture you can see like a building and it looks a little weird, but you could say, you know, maybe they did some animation stuff to it. It doesn't exactly look normal, but again, I saw this in the moment and I was just like, yeah, that's a building. I didn't look too hard at it. Second picture, again, nothing too crazy. The branches and the trees are a little weird. The building is a little weird. Looks like there's some sort of sign on the top that doesn't quite make sense. A billboard in the forefront of the photo, and then people kind of blurred out at the bottom. Again, this is one of those situations where I was like, yeah, it looks kind of weird, but it is what it is. Again, I saw this in the moment and wasn't really paying that much attention. And then this last image, of course, published by Isa of the Isle, who I'm getting these screenshots from, where they pointed out that the Dragon Ball Legends use AI for this. Look at that last image in particular. And now if you look at the last image, that's where it's painfully obvious. You can see all of the people look very strange. That one guy in the corner there is missing his face. There looks like to be text on the building to the right. It's completely illegible. So they completely used AI in these trailers, and fans are angry. Now, as far as the usage of AI ethically or morally, I don't really have much to add to that conversation. I really think it's a thing where you basically decide if you like it or you don't. For me personally, I don't think AI art is good. I think it's anti-art to just steal other people's art and feed it into an algorithm and then spit it out. And in this situation, using it to promote Dragon Ball is crazy because we've already heard about Shueisha wanting to incorporate more AI into things. So this is just another thing where it's like, wow, we are getting closer to that time frame where they're going to phase out more people and basically use AI for more things. And I understand why people are angry with this. I don't really know if it's that crazy or if this is like where the rest of the industry is heading, but nonetheless, people are furious, and I just needed to mention it here because this is definitely a new leaf being turned over in the future, and I do think that we are in the realm now where AI is going to be used much more in situations like this. Next, let's talk about the Dragon Ball Legends SH Figuarts figures revealed. We got Giblet and Shallot. Looks like Shallot is going to be in his Super Saiyan Blue form and have his regular black hair as a swappable head and face, and then Giblet has the red Super Saiyan God hair, and then he has his own swappable faces as well. So Shallot here looks amazing. The figure looks awesome. I think this is one of the best SH Figuarts figures I've ever seen. It looks absolutely gorgeous. And then Giblet has a soft goods cloak that he wears iconically, and then they both come with swappable wrists to basically make the fusion pose, which of course is iconic. So maybe one day we'll get their fusion as an action figure as well. I decided to talk about this here because I addressed it in the previous video, and I just wanted to follow up with this better look at the figures. They look absolutely amazing. Also worth mentioning before we talk about the Toyotaro interview, now is the time to get into Dragon Ball Legends. If you've ever been curious, they're giving away a ton of Chrono Crystals, so if you haven't already, it's time to jump on that bandwagon. Alright, now let's break down the Toyotaro interview that he did as part of illustrating the special 7th anniversary collab illustration with UI Goku and Super Saiyan Blue Evolved Vegeta. So the question is, could you tell us a little about what you focused on for this illustration? Toyotaro says, when deciding on the poses, I wanted Goku and Vegeta to be able to stand on their own, but also give a sense of teamwork when put together. I also wanted to make it look really dynamic, so I had them face the viewer and give extra thought to their clothing and facial expressions. The interviewer says, I can see that both of them have rips and tears in their clothing, so they must have been in some kind of fierce battle. Who were you imagining they were up against? Toyotaro absolutely schools him and says, I wasn't thinking of anyone in particular, but since I think the setting is the tournament of power, then I guess it must be Jiren. The idea is that they both transformed after a long battle, so I thought it would make sense for their clothes to have some tears in them. And then of course the interviewer says, since this illustration is composed to show that Goku and Vegeta are fighting together, was there anything you kept in mind when drawing these two side by side? Toyotaro replies, I wanted to keep it from looking too symmetrical, so I lined their fists vertically instead of being right next to each other. There's also some overlap between one character's fists and the other body, which helps to add some depth. Now this is very interesting. So the question is, how about the line art and their facial expressions? Toyotaro says, since they're in their Ultra Instinct and Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Evolved forms, I tried to bring out the unique characteristics of each form and their expressions. In particular, this version of Vegeta doesn't exist in the manga, and it was my first time drawing this form, so I paid close attention to his expression and hairstyle to make sure everything looked natural to fans of the anime. In case you guys weren't aware, Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Evolved does not exist in the manga. It's a different form, totally different, and it just is a little bit of a darker regular Super Saiyan Blue form. So this is a Toyotaro first, in case you guys weren't aware, and I just think it's interesting that he went ahead and confirmed that, because there are still people to this day that claim that that form is just Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Evolved, and they just don't name it that, but it basically is that, so you should recognize it as that. But now we have Toyotaro confirming that is not the case, that is not Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Evolved, that is something completely different. And of course, the final question is, how do you feel about your illustration being used on the Legends app launch screen? Toyotaro says, it's really an honor to be featured like this on the 7th anniversary. My hope is that this illustration helps to add even more to the appeal of Dragon Ball Legends. And that's going to be it for this video today, guys. Again, bit of a shorter video, not too much happening in the world, but those Dragon Ball Project multi-leaks are insane. And I guess I should call it Grand Squadron, because I don't want to keep mispronouncing the Japanese pronunciation. So until we get an official confirmation on what they'll be translating it as in these states, I'll just basically call it Grand Squadron. And I do think we could see it at Summer Game Fest, so keep your eyes peeled. Anyways, guys, that will be it for this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to keep up to date with all things Dragon Ball news and commentary. And I will catch you in the next one. Peace off.